So, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to this very special online class. Today you're going to learn how to write a CV and how to attend an interview to secure that perfect job for you. So my name's Colin, and I am a lecturer at the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism, Princess Songklar University. So your project is to write a perfect CV, and people often ask, what is the difference between a CV and a resume? And it's a very good question, which seems to confuse a lot of students, and this is the answer. There is absolutely no difference whatsoever. In America, they would call it a resume. In the UK and in Europe, we would call it a CV, which is the abbreviation for curriculum vitae. So always remember that. There is no difference between a resume and a CV, so never let it confuse you. So I want you to think for a few moments, why do you need a resume or a CV? Okay, so why do you think you need to have that CV? Well, here are some of the reasons. It makes you different from your other employees, so competition from other employees. Remember that when you submit your resume or your CV, lots of your friends may also be submitting their resumes and CVs for exactly the same job. So you want yours to stand out. It will win you an interview. It won't get you a job, but it is the first stage to getting you that interview. It sells you and your skills, so it's a great opportunity for you to outline your skills on paper before you actually get to the interview stage. And an employer will look at your CV, and that will determine the questions that might be asked at the interview stage. And it also reminds an interviewer how fantastic you really are. So initially, I'm going to give you my top tips for a successful resume. And number one, absolutely no spelling, grammar, or punctuation mistakes ever. If you have spelling mistakes or punctuation mistakes, it shows that you lack attention to detail. Okay, so check it, double check it, treble check it before you actually submit your CV to a potential employer. It highlights this qualifications or skills summary at the top. So I call this a personal statement, and I will go into more detail later, but it's about 4 or 5 sentences long. Number 3, the resume must match your skills and ability to a potential employer's needs. And we often forget this. So when you see a job advertised, you need to pick out those 4 or 5 skills that an employer might be looking for. And you need to tailor or match your resume to those skills. It outlines what skills do you possess and how will you contribute to the company. It's not all about what you can get from the company, but they want to know how you contribute, what skills, what experience, what attributes you can contribute to the company. I always say be a little bit different, courageous, and exciting. Boring resumes lead to boring jobs. Be sure the resume is well organized and readable. And it's estimated that a human resource manager will decide within the first 5 or 6 seconds whether they want to take it to the next stage or not. So it needs to be readable and well organized. Always include a cover letter with your resume or CV or an application form, and change your resume. I think sometimes we forget, as we gain new skills, our resumes should change as well. So some of the do's and some of the don'ts. Number 1, always be honest. Never tell a lie on a CV. Number 2, use the same font throughout. So for each of the headings, if you use size 12 font bold, make sure that's continued for the rest of your CV. Bullet point your duties. Never write a paragraph, okay? So always make sure you bullet point your duties, starting with the most important duty first and then working your way down. By bullet pointing, it makes it a lot easier for the human resource manager to read. Always use white paper and use some buzzwords, or what we call them positive words, action words. And I'll give you more examples later. Professional photo. Now, if you're applying for a job in Thailand, you always have a professional photograph. Ideally, if it's an internship position, you would be in your school uniform with a smart shirt, jacket and tie. Keep it simple, make it easy to read. And as at your age and with your experience, you should have one page only. As you gain experience and as you get older, like myself, it then develops into 2 pages. But you should never have a CV more than 2 pages long. Some of the don'ts. You never abbreviate on a formal document. So none of I'm, okay? It's always I am. No spelling mistakes ever. Never use slang words. And be careful not to repeat what you're saying. It's very easy for repetition. Make sure you never repeat. And always make sure you have a professional email address, because if the employer wants to send you an email, they don't want to send you an email like iloveselfies@gmail.com. Okay, that gives off a bad first impression. So always make sure that you have a professional email address. Common resume errors. It's too long. It's disorganized. The information is all over the place. It's over-wordy. That means there are too many words. It lacks essential results or accomplishments. If you've got a really good TOEIC score or a GPA, make sure you put that on your resume. If you've won a spelling bee competition, make sure that also goes on your resume. Too bare bones. This means there's not enough information. So it's almost the opposite of overworldly. Irrelevant information. No one cares how many people are in your family. No one cares if you've got 2 dogs, 2 cats and a parrot. Okay? So make sure that the information you put on there is irrelevant. You only have 1 page. Make the most of it. It's got an unprofessional appearance, misspellings, poor grammar, or use of slangs, or always an oh no, or the glitz effect. You don't need to jazz it up by putting different colors, okay? Keep it short and simple, or as I call it, the kiss effect. Keep it short and simple. And always make sure that your resumes or CVs are directed to the right person, and make sure the person's name is spelt correctly. So, we've now moved on to the next section of this, and everybody will have a different opinion. But this would be my professional opinion of how many sections you might want to have on your resume. And it will change as you gain more experience. But number 1, your personal detail. Number 2, your personal statement. Number 3, a summary of your qualifications. 4, your work history. Number 5, your key skills. Possibly your most valuable key skill is your languages, or are your languages. So you need to make sure that they go on there. Hobbies and interests, they say a lot about a person. And finally, references. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break this down and go through each one of these categories, and I will give you an example. So, your personal details. Now this would be for a Thai style resume, because a resume will be very different in Thailand than it would be in Europe or America. So number one, over on the left hand side, it would have your full name plus your nickname, your email address, your mobile number, date of birth, your sex, nationality, religion, and I believe that in Thailand they like to see your height and your weight, okay? And then over here, you would have a professional photograph. So as I said at the beginning, if this is size 12 or size 14 font on the left-hand side, always make sure that that theme is carried out throughout your resume. So that will be section 1. And now I just wanted to show you the difference by a European university. In Europe, we wouldn't have a photo, we wouldn't have our sex, our religion, our height, or weight. And we may not even have our nationality or our date of birth. The second section is what I call the personal statement, and I believe this takes the most work because it's your way to freelance, to free write rather, okay? But you need to answer these 5 questions. Number 1, who you are, okay? So if you're answering these, then you're on the right path. So a final year student or a first year student at the Faculty of Hospitality and Tourism, Princess Songkhla University, majoring in hospitality management. That answers the first question of who you are. Now you don't have to say your name here because your name is already stated under the personal information at the beginning. So make sure you're not repeating. Number 2, what you're doing now, whether it's work experience or internship. During my studies, I had the opportunity to undertake an internship at blah, 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 okay? So that's what you're doing now. Number 3, what can you bring to the organization? Now again, this is answering the question, what can I bring to the organization? Using my excellent communication skills or my excellent teamwork skills or presentation skills. Remember, you have to tailor your CV to what the employer is looking for. What type of position you're looking for should answer question number 4. Currently looking to undertake an internship position or a part-time position within a 5-star hotel on the island of Phuket or in Thailand. Okay, so that answers those 4 questions. And this is almost a repeat of this. So you can in fact leave this out. It depends how confident or how good you are at writing. So always make sure you're answering these questions. Who you are, what you're doing now, what can you bring to the organization, and what you're looking for. And you can put your long-term career aims in here as well, okay? So to me, the personal statement will take the most work, the most time, and once you've done it, please make sure you check it, you double check it, and you triple check it. Get someone else to check it as well. So, just so you know, these are some of the buzzwords that you might want to include in your CV. Listening, communication, problem solving, leadership, goal setting, self-motivating, showing confidence, organizing, conceptualizing, and negotiating. So these are what we call buzzwords. And human resource managers and employers love to see these kind of buzzwords throughout your CV. Now, I'm not suggesting you include them all, but certainly maybe 2 or 3 of them. The next section, section 3, is your education. Now, and again, it goes in this structure. It's what we call a chronological CV. And a chronological CV means starting with the most recent and working your way back. So you would have the name of the school and the location. You would have the start and end date of your study. You would have perhaps your major in there as well. And because you're lacking in work experience, you might want to include some of the subjects you studied. Now again, I don't expect you to list all the subjects, but pick out the important ones that would be relevant for that particular job. So for example, let's take the Princess Songklar University. You started in January 2015. You're still studying here today, so you would say present. Your major hospitality and tourism management, and you would list your subjects. Now, as you are a university graduate, I would also suggest using the same structure here, your previous high school. You do not need to mention baby school. No one is interested, okay? So keep it relevant to the position. Just for your information, a recent survey was done, and these are the 4 key skills that human resources managers and employers look for. They look for effective communication skills, okay? They look for people who can problem solve. They look for people with great organizational skills. And finally, they look for people who are able to work as part of a team. So your team working skills. So that's a summary of the key skills that employers are needing or look for. Communication skills, which includes your language skills, speaking, reading, writing and listening. Problem solving skills, how good are you at solving problems? How good at you are with organization, are you able to organize yourself? And finally, your team working skills. Now, all of these you have learned at university. You might think, oh, I don't have problem solving skills, or I don't have good organizational skills. Working on studying at university, yes, you do. So, it's important to remember that if the job is completed, okay, you put the bullet points in the past simple tense. If you are doing the job now, you can use the present simple tense or the present continuous tenses. Okay, so you need to be very careful with this. If it's done in the past, the next category or the next section would be your work experience. Now again, there is a certain structure you need to follow here. And all these structures make it very, very easy to read. So you would have the company name, the start date, the end date, the position you worked in, your duties. And I've given you an example here. So let's say I work for PSU Lodge 5-star Resort and Spa. I started in April 2014 and I still work there today. And my position was a receptionist. Now, you can see that I've listed the top 5 important duties. It would be almost impossible to list all the duties, so I've picked the top 5 important ones that the human resources manager may be looking for. So answering telephone calls, meeting and greeting customers, checking customers in and out, dealing with problems, providing information. Now you will also notice, because I'm still working there now, I've used an ing ending, a present continuous ending. Key skills. You should put number 1, Thai is your mother tongue. That means that is your first language. Your English skills to an intermediate or advanced level. Now, be very, very careful with this, okay? As I said at the beginning, make sure you don't tell lies, because if you put at an advanced level and then they get you in for an interview and they find out that maybe you're at an intermediate level, they will not be too happy with you. So, especially with this section, okay, make sure you tell the truth. Intermediate, English skills, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Now, very important, your computer skills. You've all used Word while at university. You've used Excel while at university, and you've used PowerPoint while at university. Make sure that these go on your key skills. And if you've done Photoshop or any other computer skills that you think may be relevant, make sure it goes on here under this section. So people often say, why do I need to put hobbies and interests on a resume? Well, as an ex-human resources manager, I think it's very, very important. People like to know what you do in your free time, okay? And it says a lot about you. Make sure that your hobbies and interests are a mixture of team sports and individual activity as well. So for example, I might put on mine soccer. Now soccer or football, whatever you want to call it, would tell the human resources manager that you're a good team player, you can take instructions, you're organized. So please don't put, I like playing computer games, okay? That doesn't really say much about you. Cooking for friends and family, going to the cinema, okay? These are all group activities that you could include. Reading books, that's great, but make sure that if you want to show off your language skills, that you're saying reading English books such as Harry Potter, okay? So you need to tell the employer what kind of books you read. And finally, the last section on this would be references. Now, references are very, very important. And it's where the employer will go to a previous employer and ask them questions about you. And I always suggest that you put maybe a teacher, you put somebody you know in authority. There's no point in putting your mum or your dad or your grandma or grandfather, because they're going to say lovely things about you. But just to make sure, if you do use someone's name, it's very, very polite to tell them that you're going to use them for a reference beforehand, okay? Rather than some stranger phoning up a lecture and saying, oh, such and such a student has given your name as a reference. So please make sure that you ask permission before you put their name on the resume. And the reference details would be as follows. The contact details for the referee, the company that the referee works for, the position of the referee, the email address, and the telephone number. And as I said, you should always call your references on a regular basis and let them know of potential employers that might be contacting them. Now, we're going to touch upon the next section, and that is writing a cover letter. And again, most employers will now expect you to write a cover letter. So what is a cover letter? As I said, almost for every position, you will be asked to either write a cover letter or fill in an application form. Now, a cover letter is slightly more difficult because it's free writing. And lots of employers like to see your free writing style. So such a letter introduces you, it explains your purpose for writing, highlights a few of your experiences or skills, and requests an opportunity to meet personally so you can discuss the position face to face. Now, your cover letter is your introduction to an employer, and they may read it before they actually turn to your CV. So again, you need to make sure that it's absolutely perfect. Do not repeat the same information on your cover letter as you did on your CV. So, what to include in a cover letter? You try to limit it to one page. You assess the employer's needs and skills. Then you match them in the letter and you try to appeal to the employer's self-interest. As much as possible, you tailor your letter to each job opportunity. Do not send the same cover letter out to all different employers. You write in a style that is mature, that is clear. You avoid long and difficult sentences and avoid jargon and slang at all costs. You use some action words or buzzwords, whichever you like to call them, and you arrange the points in a logical sequence. Now, I suggest that you have 4 short paragraphs for your cover letter. Paragraph 1 will tell the employer why you're writing. It's like a topic sentence. Paragraph 2, this is where you match 2 to 3 of the employer's skills that they're looking for with your skills. Why do you want to work for this organization? And a closing paragraph. So we will go through each one of these now, and I will give you an example. So the opening paragraph, you state why you're writing, where you saw the job advertisement, when you saw the job advertisement, and what the job is. So for example, I am writing in response to your recent advertisement in the Phuket News, dated the 22nd of December 2015, requiring a receptionist to work for PSU Lodge in Kathu. Now, all you have to do is just change the detail here, but you can use exactly the same sentence structure. Or if you're applying for an internship, you might use this structure, but just change it slightly. So this is quite an easy paragraph to write, okay? This is what we call the opening paragraph. Then paragraph 2, we select 3 or 4 skills from the job advertisement and we write about them. So we want to arouse the reader's interest, okay? We want them checking or reading your cover letter and then thinking, wow, this student or this candidate sounds really interesting. Let's have a look at their CV. So I've given you an example here. I pride myself on my ability to communicate with people at all levels, both in person and written communication. My various internships has improved my team working and problem solving skills. I now consider these to be my main strengths. So in this short paragraph, you have demonstrated 3 or 4 different skills that I've picked out from the job application. So that is paragraph 2. Paragraph 3, why do you want to work for this company? Now, please avoid saying things like, oh, you pay a high salary, or the food in your canteen is fantastic, okay? An employer wants to know why you want to work for them. And I've given you an example here. Your company offers me the training and development that I'm looking for as a new graduate. The company benefits are also appealing to me. So these benefits, that can include salary, but try and avoid using the word salary. And as an employer, if I saw training and development and you were very interested in it, I would think to myself, wow, this student is really, really enthusiastic. I want them working for my organization. Now, the closing paragraph, okay? You need to thank them for reading your CV and your cover letter. And I've given you an example here. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for taking the time to read my resume. I would love the opportunity to meet with you to discuss my experience in more detail, okay? In the meantime, should you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. And you can finish it off with a little sentence saying, I look forward to hearing from you soon. So, those are the 4 paragraphs, okay? Everything's very polite, everything's straightforward. You don't have to write a long letter as a cover letter, okay? 4 short, punchy paragraphs will do. So, how to format a cover letter? Type in each letter individually. Use good quality paper if you can. If you're sending it an email, this becomes irrelevant. And whenever possible, try to find out the person who's dealing with the position. Okay? Again, this shows that you may have called the hotel, so you're rather keen. You've done a little bit of research here. Each letter should be grammatically correct, okay, properly punctuated, and perfectly spelled. Okay, as I said, throughout, no spelling mistakes, no grammar mistakes, and make sure your punctuation is perfect. Now, that brings us to the end of those 2 sections. So we've got your resume and your cover letter. We're now going to move on to the next section, and that is how to behave or how to conduct yourself at an interview.